we are alive with no issues unlike yesterday. Give me a second, I need to check, because it does take some time for it to get live. Yeah, I think everything is working fine on Twitch. Now let's check the annoying one, YouTube. Okay, welcome back. Yesterday was a very annoying episode. We set certain topics to be finished yesterday, but we didn't manage to. For the Spring Boot, it was the custom global error handling, while for Angular, we just stopped at this part, because the thing is about Angular is the entire thing is kind of new to me, but the tutorial that I was watching kind of assumes that you at least know some stuff. So I'm not sure. I think I will be watching the tutorial continuing, yes, but I think this will be my first time reading the documentary, because now I have some errors everywhere that I'm not sure where they're coming from. I have autosave, yes. Like for example, this file has errors now for some reason. The HTML one has the ng4 is not applied also, and the component one seems to be working fine though. I mean, anyway, we will start about this later. We as always start with Spring Boot. Last time, what did we cover? The serial version UID. Yes, okay, I remember that part. And to test if I still remember all the stuff that we went through, we should be creating a new directory. What do we call it? Errors? Sure, errors. It will take some time for my hand to get used to writing on the keyboard again. And inside of that, we will need 3 classes. The one that has the add controller advice, the one that's custom made. Okay, let's start with the custom made one. I mean, actually before that, let me check what was the error that we were trying to get in the kit mapping. Task didn't exist here, so we can call this task. Should we call it doesn't exist, or there is a better phrasing to it? Task is not there. Task, I'm not sure. Task is undefined. Nope. Task is missing, or task doesn't exist. Does not exist. I mean, for the naming conventions, we will add them later, but. And this one, as we said, will extend runtime exception. Okay, it's never used. It was never used. And then we make the constructor. I'm just trying to get used to the generator here. Message string. So this is the first one. The second one is the global handler. I forgot what do you call it, but
Our API and it's robust, have exception handling.
yes, there is the add status also, but the other ones, I think there was how much? Around 3 types of handling errors. Okay, there's the global handling one, the one that we're currently doing. And then we have the per exception, and then the one per controller, but we will get to these part later. For now, yeah, we forgot the main thing that we kept on doing yesterday. Private final static, I think it was called serial. I'm not sure what did I just open. Serial Okay, we forgot that it's a string. Serial. Okay, I also forgot the name of it. Serial version UID. Version UID equals to 1. And that's actually, it's not a string even, it was no. Is never used. Field is serialized class, not declared private. Okay, what is declared then?
You just happen I create exceptions, and then what you
Okay, you call it exceptions. Why did I think of errors? Okay, never mind. Rename and call it exception. Okay.
You want to do
That's
is you
one
want
thing.
to actually create this class thing that I showed you guys. So we have this class right here, and we actually want to implement.
Not found exception. What did we call it here? Does not exist, or I guess not found is more suitable. Okay, let's refactor that one also. Not found exception. I'm not sure if we need to call it task also, but I don't think so.
Our own.
It's very specific.
You don't, because we're doing it in the global way, you don't have to have the response status annotation, but you can do it. You can do it that way if you want to.
But that's inside the class, not the controller advisor class.
Really
okay, let's take it baby steps for now.
Create a generic Pokemon not found exception.
Okay, also same like I thought.
Class, and it's going to exception.
I need to get used to the naming here. I don't think the naming matter as much, but it shows that at least you know what you're doing.
And we'll go here, we go static, and
private.
This is because the runtime exception uses something called serialization. So we have to implement this thing right here just for good measure.
Public static and then final. Okay.
So I go UID and I go ahead and put 1.
I put the L here, but I think yeah, it is necessary. So L isn't capital, and we didn't. Okay, that's a typo on my part.
Right now, if you want to research it, once again, it's called serialization, and
yeah, it was a very deep topic, but makes sense. But it's very deep.
Know more about it? Go ahead. You can feel free to research that. And kind of boring, to be honest. So we're going to go in here, and then we're going to have a super, and we're going to give this a super message with the super method in.
Which reminds me, since I haven't used it in a while, what does the super constructor do? In Java, I want the Java syntax so that if you don't contact the superclass, will automatically call the no argument constructor of the superclass if it exists. Explicitly Windows does not have if the parent class has no argument, we have here for example animal, and there is the name, then there is dog. It ensures that the parent class is properly initialized before the subclass. Okay, good. If the subclass shares similar step logic, you can replace. In short, why do we need to use the super? To call constructor of the parent class from the superclass. This ensures that the parent class is probably initialized before the subclass. So what if we want to add to the parent constructor in the child? We call the parent constructor super, and then you add. First you call the parent constructor using the super to ensure the parent. After that you add the additional logic you initialize in the class. The constructor calls the parent to initialize the name properly. I will have to check that part. I still have my notes, but if I don't use it I will forget it. That's how it goes.
Inside of it. So what's going to happen is that we are going to actually create these Pokemon not found exceptions, and it's going to pass this up into the actual
actually I should also write it here. Inheritance.
Runtime.
I know it's a very important topic, but I haven't worked with inheritance in my project so far.
This is going to essentially just go up in here into our runtime exception, and it's going to it's going to pass this actual constructor, this actual string, into the runtime exception. Okay, so looking good on that front. Now what we need to do is
the global.
We need to create.
So this is the custom exception that we want for our specific task. The second will be the controller advisor, which will make it global across the controller annotation.
Called an object, or it's not actually called like this specifically, but we're going to create an object so that when it returns the data back, it gives us our data in a nice little neat format and doesn't return a bunch of crazy error messages that somebody could use to hack us. Okay, status code. We're gonna go in here, then we're gonna go.
So yeah, this is where we structure the response. So we need the status code, yes, we need the header, and then we need the body.
String.
I think string for both
like
of them.
This, and we're gonna go message, then we're gonna go private, just like this, and go date, and we're going to give it a timestamp so that
okay, we also get the timestamp.
Return this data, we will return it back with the status code message in.
Okay, interesting. Why do we need to make error object to handle our status code, timestamp, and I think the header was there. Message only. Okay. After making our custom error that extends runtime exception. We create a custom class that extends runtime exception. To provide more structure and informative on handle the application, you may want to include details in error handle. Structured error format. When an error occurs, it's even important not just the message but also the other contexts, extended code and timestamp, to make debugging and handling more effective. Timestamp helps you know when the error occurred, which is essential for debugging. I haven't encountered. Okay, I thought someone was knocking. Never mind. I haven't encountered a case when we will use timestamp in the debugging, but probably because I haven't made a big overall project. Okay, so for error handling and debugging we need the status code, which makes sense, and then we need the message because just the status code will not be enough for anything really, and then you have the timestamp. By creating an error object that contains all of this information, you can easily manage and log these details whenever an error is thrown. Okay, this is the custom error, runtime exception. He's not using the same pattern as the video here.
Timestamp. Okay, next thing that we need to do is we need to actually implement what we've been talking about for so long, is we need to actually implement the global exception handler. And the way that we're going to do that is we're just going to literally make a class called global.
I'm not sure about the error object, but we'll get to that part later.
Exception handler. We go in here, just like this, and we need to give it this thing called controller advice. I do not know why they call it controller advice. Maybe you're giving advice to the controller, but what essentially it's going to do is it's going to turn this into a special type of bean that Spring can use to handle exceptions. And this is going to be almost like, it's called an interceptor.
Interceptor, okay.
It will actually intercept these actual, what are they called? Exceptions. Going to implement these exceptions, sorry, I blanked out, and actually intercept them before they actually happen. So we're going to go here, or before it actually turns up the 500 error, I'm sorry. So go in here, we're going to go object, just like this, and we're going to say handle Pokemon not found.
Okay, interesting. Explain to me the response entity class, because I need to understand how okay, it needs the status code, it needs the header, and it needs the body. That's what I understood. Actually, okay, I'll let him continue for now.
Okay.
Because error object doesn't only does give the timestamp, the status code, and a third thing, but I forgot.
And we're going to return a response entity. And then we're going to go in here, we're going to say Pokemon not found exception. We're going to call this EX for short for exception. Then we're going to give it the web request, and we're going to give it just the name of request.
Okay, now that's new. What's a web request? Web request class is an interface that provides a way to access and interact with both HTTP requests and response in a web application. It serves as a high-level abstraction, allowing you to work with the details of the web request and response in more flexible, consistent manner. Okay. Web request is a part of the Spring module. Okay, that's a new thing that we didn't even know existed. We actually put it here. It was called web request. My hand is not writing today.
And what this does is this is basically going to bring in our actual class, and this is going to bring in the actual data that's being received, or the actual request, so that it can actually error out and we can get information from the actual request. Like
create for me an exception, global handler. So I created two custom error handler errors, and then that's the global one. Okay, this one is understandable because the exception handler needs to know what type of exception is dealing with. Then we have the response entity, error details. Error details, yes, okay, he's doing the same thing as him, but he also inserted here the web request. But first thing first, why do we need error details class? Because in terms of the things that I don't understand here, this is okay, this is okay, this is okay, this is not okay, not sure why. The error details class is a custom class that we use to standardize the error response in a Spring application. The primary reason for having an error details class or similar structured error are consistent in error response, better debugging and logging, easier integration, clear communication with the API. But why inside the response entity cluster? Why is it wrapped? Why the response entity class? Well, it makes sense because it's the response that we are sending to the client, but to give full control over the HTTP response, including the status code. Again, this line I have an issue with it. Explain to me this part of the code like I am it. This method declaration in Java is part of the error global handler. Yes, the method is designed to catch the actually I need to check on the other part of the code. So we have the error details, we give the details here. HTTP status not found value, yes, because it's not found. And then the EX get message, the message from this one, and system.current time -s, I'm not sure what that is. And then the constructor is the error details, which is the information, then HTTP status not found. I need to understand more about the response entity class.
So we're getting pretty far.
Java Spring Boot response entity. So we have public class response entity, and it's a generic, extends HTTP entity, is also a generic that adds HTTP status code used in REST template as well as in controller methods. Okay, actually we found something, but I'll check on it after I finish this part. Response entity that traps HTTP response. It gives control over the status code, headers, and context. Yes, error details mean that the body of the response will be an instance of error detail class, which holds information about the error. So when the method is called, it will return an HTTP response with error details objects inside. Still, I'm missing some part, I'm not sure. But let's start one by one. Let's start by the response entity. In REST template, this class is returned by... Okay, why is my mouse lagging? It's returned by get for entity and exchange. We have response entity. I'm not interested in any of this, but about the class itself. We have the body builder, the header builder, the constructor. So how many constructors we have? We have the HTTP status code only. We have multi-map, we have the string and then string, and that's the okay, we have one for the header and one for the HTTP status, one for the body and the status, body, header, and row status, body, header, and status code. So we have up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 constructors that we can use, and the one that we used here was the, where is it? Was the body and the HTTP status. So yes, this part will go to the body. Yeah, body and then the HTTP status, that part.
It's almost like it's bringing in the web page, kind of. Okay, so we're going to go in here, we're going to go error object, then we go down, and we're going to say, then we're going to assign values to the set status code, then here, and we're going to give it, for this specific instance, HTTP status is equal to,
Okay, and ChatGPT does it with 2 examples, not just one, so it's more clearer how we will use it with multiple ones. So this is the place where we create multiple handlers. Resource not found, and our resource not found. And then you pass it as the body of the request with the status code.
not found, and this is the exact status that we want to, and we need to give it this value right here. We're gonna go error object dot set message, just like this. We're gonna go error object, and we're going to give it the get message and error dot object dot set timestamp new date.
Did someone explain global handling in more details?
So we're getting pretty far along.
Spring Boot global exception handling.
Let's go ahead and learn how we can have custom exceptions with Spring Boot.
Okay.
So far in our application, if I pretty much just inspect this and then go to console, so if I refresh or restart, so you can see that right here we have this JSON payload, and this is what Spring Boot gives us by default.
So okay, good that we see it from the front end part. So we see the error,
Right.
and that's the type, and that's the message, the path, the status, the timestamp.
So you can see that we have an error. This is internal server error. The message. So this message comes from this. Oops, cannot get all students. And then we have the path, status, and also timestamp. But let's say that we want to have custom exceptions.
But wait, it does give back the path here. We
Then
don't.
have a completely different JSON structure. So let's go ahead and learn how to do that. So open up IntelliJ and let's go ahead and create a new package. So we're gonna go ahead and create a new package, and let's go ahead and call this package as exception. Now,
Okay,
inside of the exception
everyone's
class,
calling it exception.
go ahead and create a new class, and let's go ahead and simply say API and then request and then exception. So this will be our custom exception that we can throw throughout our application.
Mhm.
Now what we need to do is simply extends, and then let's go ahead and simply extend runtime exception. Now let's go ahead and create constructor. So I'm gonna press Control and then Enter. Constructor. Now go ahead and pick the one that has the actual message. So the second one, and let's go ahead and also have the constructor that has the actual throwable. So we can pass the actual message as well as the throwable. And this is pretty much what we need to do for our custom exception. Now the way that we handle exceptions, or actually throw custom exceptions with Spring Boot, is by simply have an exception handler. So let's go ahead and simply create the class, and let's go ahead and simply call this as API and then exception and then handler.
To that part,
Now-
to this part, I understand that yes, we do need the custom exception that we want to have, and then the handler that will catch the exception that we did. But the object one with the messages, I'm still not sure about.
This class is pretty much just to handle custom exceptions or even handle existing exceptions, but then we can customize the way that we throw the actual error to the client. So if I open Chrome, right here you can see that this is what Spring Boot gives us by default. So let's go ahead and change this so you see how it's done.
So yes, my question is why have it as a separate object? Well, okay, a separation of concerns, of course, but other than that, I'm not sure why do we need a specific object just for the messages.
So let's go ahead and pretty much have a method, and right here simply go ahead and say public, and then right here simply say response entity, and this will be a response entity of object. So right here, let's go ahead and simply say handle, and then API request and then exception. So basically, we're going to handle our custom exception that we've just created. So inside, what we're going to receive is the actual
Exception
we've
that
just
we created,
So
yes.
API and then request exception, and let's simply call it E. In fact, if I put this full screen so you see what we're doing. Now, what we need to do is two things. So one, we need to create a payload that we will send inside of the response entity. So payload containing
Yeah. Containing the information that we should send back, because we only made the custom class just to handle the messages, so that when we call it in the controller, we can only pass the message to it and nothing else.
exception and then details. And then second, we need to pretty much return the actual response entity. So second, return
Yes, and to return the response entity, like we said, there is three things to the response entity: the header, the status code, and the body. And you can juggle between the three thing in 5 different combinations basically. But the one that we will use are the body and the status code, since we don't need the header.
Response entity. So let's go ahead and pretty much just create a class that will represent the actual exception. So let's go ahead and create a new class inside of the exception package, and let's go ahead and simply name this as API and then exception, just like that. Go ahead and simply say okay, and then inside
More or less I'm starting to get it, not fully, but I kind of do. So we'll have here the exception class, and the thing about this exception class is that it only has 3 things, and it's basically the messages that we will add to the body. So we have private, okay, what did I write? The capital private, and then we say we want int, and that's status code, and we need private date, and we need to import the class timestamp. So what else do we need? We need the status code. We need, yeah, the most important one. Wait, do we actually need to add the message here, or it's already given from the task not found class? Because here is the message, here's the status code, and here is the timestamp.
Spring actually implement.
So we have the status code as integer, okay, not just int. Yeah, we do still need to have the message on, but why though? Let me check here also. Yeah, status code, message, and timestamp. You wrote it here as int, not integer, so I don't think it really does matter, but also type it here in the stuff that I actually need to check. Int versus integer. The explanation for it I got before, but I just kind of forgot about it. Now to create the constructors and everything, add data. No, rename to okay, thank you for the info. Now we call it exception handler. Okay, we'll do that later, and then we add controller advice. Then we add, I think it was something handler types. No, add exception handler. What is that? Add exception handler still gives me that. No, yes. So it's called add exception handler, and then you add the class itself. But I'm getting this thing for some reason. Add exception handler. But there pause and annotation. Okay, this is weird. Again, exception. Now what the fuck is this? Org Spring Boot. Huh? Okay, can you just not add this part in the import above? Because that's the import for it. It's because I called it exception handler and the method is also called exception handler, so okay, we need to find another name. We call it global exception handler. Yes, rename. Global exception handler. Exception handler. And then we add task not found exception dot class. Now what's this error? Should we need to add the value? I don't think so.
These actual
anyway, public response entity from type exception, and we call it task not found handler. What parameter? Yeah, we do have to pass task not found exception. We call it just tx, for example. I'm not sure why he added the observable thing, but we'll check that part. And then we make an object and we call it task not found exception. No, we create an object of exception, not task not found exception, because task not found is the input either way, so we don't need to create it again. So exception, and we call it exception. We just call it, yeah, just call it exception, and new exceptions for now. And we need to get all the info from it and then add it.
What are they called? Oh, for short, error object dot.
And then we write the description here by taking the error object class, which I called it exception here. Dot set status code, yes, that's for the setter, and then make it http status not found dot value, which means yes, error 200 with the specific details of it.
Set message, just like this. We're gonna go error object, and we're going to give it the
And we are going to give it the message of this error
get
here.
message and error dot object dot set timestamp new date, just like
Okay, two of them are created based on other object that they have, and only the message is taken from the other input that we got here, but I'm not sure how he will create it. Shouldn't it be ex.get message, not object or error.object?
And we've got our new date right here, and for some reason we're getting a red squig. Okay, so this is supposed to be date, and set timestamp is supposed to be, for some reason it's asking for data.
Oh, you because you wrote it data, not data.
So what
Okay, so that's also a thing that I had in mind, but I wasn't sure about it. Data.
I'm going to do, I'm going to go back to the error object.
You
And
have
this
it.
is supposed to be date right here. I don't know
Exactly.
why it turned it into.
And it's from the util class, not from the.
Good thing for why it turned it.
Yeah, you
into
don't need
data,
this
so
SQL.
good thing for IntelliSense. So now we go down here, and we're going
And you return the object with the status code.
to say new response entity error object. Oh,
Okay, he returned the error object here. Generics are a bit too
okay,
complicated for
and
me.
then here we're gonna go error object dot HTTP status.
Yeah, we are returning the object with the HTTP status not found.
Dot not found, just like this. So it's going to give us once again our response entity of not found. Okay, so this is Teddy from the future. I figured out that I actually had a bug in the code, and I went back and changed
Thank you.
this, the error object right here, into exe.
Exactly, that's what I was saying.
And you don't have to test this if you don't want to. Like I said, I've already tested it. Tested
And the web request, why are we having
it,
the
it
web
works
request
good.
here?
But if you want to test it yourself, what you can do is go.
Okay, so stuff are becoming more sensible right now. So here we have to set the exception here, exception but get message. Where did we set get status code? And we say what? Let's insert HTTP status dot not found dot value. I think so. Yep. What it says here, an error. It's a because I set it as a get, not as a set. That's the first default one, and we say exception dot set timestamp, and we say new date, and it should be creating the same date the moment the exception happens. And then we say exception dot set message, and it should be ex dot get message. And then we return response entity, and we give it the the exception with status http status dot not found. So we actually give the status in the body as a string and as the status code itself, because I don't think it will print it as an object here. Okay, and every time we want to have a new type of exception, we create a class and then we add it here. Now going back to the controller here, actually let me check how it will be implemented here. Control advice, we did that one, that's the exception. So not sure why he doesn't use try and catch here. So return response entity dot get all task, or when it's exception we return the error that we just created. Throw. Do we need return even with throw? I don't think so. Let me check how Teddy actually used it. Let's get all Pokemon, return Pokemon to stream, map to collect. Okay, they do it through the streams. I mean, I guess I have to use streams then. Pokemon dot find by ID, or else new Pokemon not found. Actually, it's a better way than the try and catch and everything we have here. So we have return response entity dot okay dot or or else, yes. So to get all Pokemons, find by ID. Okay, I'll have to check how he does it. Okay, give me a second because I think I need to go to the toilet real quick. I'll be back. back. Oof. My stomach was very upset today. Maybe the coffee wasn't as good, but anyway, we are back. So, yes. So how do we structure our response? I do it by the try and catch because that's how I saw ChatGPT do it. But some other people would also like to do it with using streams, which is probably actually better because it's more readable that way. So we have, for example, we want to get all the Pokemons, and in this case we want to get all tasks. What he says here, find by ID, and he gives it like a random ID. In our case, we don't need it to find it by ID, we just want to get all the tasks because okay, we'll get to the DTO pattern some other day. So we have find all tasks, which should give us all the tasks, and then we go here to the service and we have getting all the tasks. Okay, that code isn't readable at all. So yes, now it's more cleaner that way. So we have, there's no such element, and then we return but usually if we look at the controller, that's how we write response entity, or else this. And let's check how ChatGPT actually wrote it here. If, then true. Okay, so how does the service layer look like then? Okay, I need to check.
What's up, guys? It's the object.
Pokemon DTO. Where are we? In the controller still. I want to check out the service class.
We want to, that's kind of confusing looking, but just remember, whenever it's Pokemon.
Yeah, this is the service layer.
And new Pokemon for us. Then we're
What's the service implementation? Yes.
go ahead, throw this in the database.
So we have create Pokemon, for example, set type.
And we are good to go. So we're going to go down here. Now we have our Pokemon DTO. I'm going to go.
So yes, that's what I thought. Exception handling is handled only in the controller, not in this one. But if you did that, then there is no need to make the repository as generic then, because if it's generic, you cannot just return it. You have to check if it's empty or not. For example, if I commented this part, I mean technically you don't, because you can just make the return type as this. So we can make it like this and then handle the exception in the controller part. For some reason it's not working. Task is redundant. Well, I mean, I tried to actually. Okay, we don't even need to create variable to begin with. We can just return that thing itself. Set so because he uses the DTO pattern right here, and for some reason he creates a service and then a service implementation, which is two things that I think I'm delaying for now. The DTO, yes, and the service implementation. But anyway, so the return here would be generic. So let's go back to our controller here, and as we said, exception.
So we're getting pretty in here. We're gonna go
That's the exception handler. Let's
here,
check the
object,
class
and
itself.
let's go ahead and
We don't want to find it by ID. We just want to. Okay, we want to create a list from tasks. So we say return. Yes, service task service dot get all tasks, and then the error will be because it's a response. Cannot. Okay, dot or else throw. I'm not sure if it will even work or not. Probably not, but should we implement the class or something? Nope. Can you give me an example of how the controller class will implement the error? What else? Yes, how we implement the error using or else throw, because or else throw I never used it, but I know about it. I know that exists and I know what it does, but that's about it. Or else throw. Method is often used with optional values. Okay, thank you. We have an optional value, so I always forgot that optional. I did study generics and optionals, but I never tied them in my brain with these type of methods, the stream ones. So here's a service user.put optional get user by ID, optional dot of nullable user database get ID. That's what we did. Dot or else. Actually, let me just get this entire thing right now, because I just want to check if it will give us an error or not. And we say not resource, but we say task not found exception, and then we make it here. Task wasn't found. Cannot resolve in a list. It's because it's a list, we cannot give it back. That's a way neater way to handle it than actually handling the error in this part. So what if we are returning a list? Like no user found, or you can still use optional else row to handle such case. It's a bit different because you are dealing with a collection instead of a single yes. Right now we are not just dealing with I should have studied stream more. I think maybe I will do. I do have it here, yes, because now I understand why you use it. I studied a bit in a very strange way, just by solving questions and stuff, so my knowledge about streams isn't that good, which now I'm starting to see how important it is. So we will be getting back a new array list. Okay, so he returned it in an array list instead of keeping it as a list. Okay, I didn't know about that functionality also. So get mapping, get all users. If the user is empty, so here he did it with the if statement to check if the user is empty or not. And we talked about is empty, and this one is we use it for the connection and collection, and there was another one that we use with where is it, servers, get by title, exist, nope. So we cannot use it with the collection here, so we have to separate our code a bit. And yes, get mapping here, we have tasks, and we should be getting all our maps. But forget about the mapping part for now, because that depends on how the front end is structured. So here it's a collection, so we cannot use dot or else row. So this one is get by ID, we can use or else, but by collection we just throw it. Okay, so dot or else here is a bad idea, and we cannot return it. So how about we make a list? There's too much things going on here. So what should we? No, we shouldn't. Okay, we say list of task. What is this? I should probably study more about IntelliJ later on, but the L is capital. We call it tasks equals to task service dot get all tasks, and then we say if task dot is empty, throw return throw what else, task not found exception, and we pass on the message as what do we call it, task not found. Probably there is no return here. Insert a new method. It's not a method, so okay, I forgot the new. Or else we return response entity, not just task. Here, yeah, he has a bit of an issue here. We return response entity in the controller. So if empty, new response entity, and then you add the user or the task, the users, yes, the list. in the body and then http status dot okay, which is the thing. But I mean, we response entity dot status. We should also change this one to the task one, but for now, let's return response entity. We say tasks, and then response entity dot okay, which is the status code. Now, why is everything here seems wrong? Yeah, okay, we forgot the new again. HTTP status, it's not okay, I was going to say. So here we return HTTP status not found. We say here HTTP status found or okay. HTTP status dot okay, and we don't need the thing here. And okay is an enum here. I need to understand the whole structure of the HTTP, the response entity and the HTTP status, but that will probably be too much details. So I think everything is working. Now to get Postman. Okay, never mind, there is an error here. Okay, line 17. Java cannot find simple method status code int. Okay, for some reason LOM just doesn't work sometimes. Okay, I think we'll have to create them manually. So we have the setters and getters. We want all of them, and we also want a constructor. So we have the select none, and then we also the select all. Now let's try running again. For some reason Lombok just sometimes doesn't work. It is what it is. Okay, now we have a big error for some reason. Holy shit. Error creating bean with task controller defined in thing is about reading errors. I'm not sure how to get it. To do task controller dot class. I think that one was on the global exception handler. Why is it that unsatisfied dependency expression through constructor parameter error creating a bean with name task service defined in the file? Okay, multiple errors, not just one. Indicates that there is a problem with the method find all task in your task repository. This error cannot automatically derive. Okay, so we have an issue of find all task. Use the default find all method, just find all. Okay, that's another weakness that we have that we need to check on the JPA repository method. which I'm not sure how to start implementing it unless I have a project. What is ChatGPT? Yes, so we just use the find all. For example, if you want to find all tasks but with some custom flirting, I should actually do the query. So cannot write task, we have to just write find all. Okay, now let's check again. Okay, it seems to be working fine. Now to actually do it with Postman. So we created this description here. We are creating a task. Actually, yes, we need to check on the database also. So we are double checking. Slash C test 2. It was the opposite one. Okay. Select all from what was the table called again? Task. Then it's tasks. Wait, what? Where is the task class? Yes, it's called task only. Select all from task. Then why? Maybe I just mistyped it before. Anyway, so we have everything here as false. So let's create our task. We'll create them using only 3: the tag, the title, and the description, without having tags completed as false as all this. Yes, the ID, Angular, and everything. Now let's check here if it's in the database. Yes, it is, and the default option is always false. Now we want to create a duplicate, and then we want to rename that getting all tasks. Okay, we renamed the wrong one, but never mind. So this one is okay. Posting a full info task. Not sure why it does show here that it's a get request when it's actually a post one. Then we have this one as a get request to the same API here for now at least, and we rename it to get all tasks. So we have get all tasks, we have posting 1. So how about we post another one, and we call it study Spring Boot, for example. Let me say study Spring Boot every day. So we post another one. Okay, an error has occurred. The task already exists, but the title description is different. How is this the same error? Where is my code? Let's go to the service. Exist by title. Get the title and then save the task. the title is different though. For example, where is the get one? This one is post, this one is also post. We haven't created, I want to get a single task by ID, never mind. So the alt task that we have here is study tag, and then we have studying Spring Boot. Okay, I called it study Spring Boot, never mind. Okay, we start this one, and we should probably be able to do the get by ID next time. But I have a lot of gaps in my knowledge by doing this project, so these areas I will have to work on while also doing the project first. So again, we are posting this. We are going to study Spring Boot. We say study Spring Boot every day, and we send the request. So that's the first one, and we name it first post task, and this one also we will rename it second post request. Let's call it task, and then we make it study Angular, and then we say Angular every day, and we send. So now we have two. Now to get all tasks, I think that's it. Pretty sure the tasks are already here, yes. But now let's check the controller here. We want to be getting a lot of things. Status 500, that means something happened in the server and API tasks. So this one is working. The get mapping that we have is not working. Get all tasks. It's a get mapping, and we should be receiving a list. Authorization, then body, script setting. Maybe I'm using something wrongly. Okay, let me check how do you how to use Postman.
Postman. Only want to test 2 or 3 single. So here set URL here. Now to send request, just click on this send button, or you can press Ctrl plus enter or Command plus enter, and at the bottom we get our response.
So we should be just getting the response then. For some reason it shows an internal server error with the timestamp. Okay, so we definitely know for sure that the issue is within the controller itself. I get an error 500 for sending a request to this controller. Okay, now ChatGPT is not working. Never mind. I can see a couple of potential places where things might go wrong. Servers should not get all test servers. It could throw an exception like null pointer exception or database related issues not being handled, resulting in a 504 error. throwing a custom exception, but it's important to ensure the exception is handled globally at the controller advice. I am pretty sure we do have the add control advice, so that's not the issue, so it's probably number one. Ensure that the task service.get all tasks is actually retrieving the data from your data source. Okay, that's another one. So it's an issue in the service layer, then not the controller layer. Okay, let's check the service. Get all tasks, return task.repository. Dot find all. If I want to create a JPA repository method and I want to return all the tasks, how would that look like? We have the task, the repository already has the find all, so I don't need to even implicitly say it. So okay, where's the repository? Then let's go back to the service. Let's list task. That's exactly what I have. That's also exactly what I have. Now let's try again. But I want to check if we are getting the custom method, the custom error that we did first. Yes, task not found, status code 404, and the timestamp. Okay. And now we post this one, then we post this one, and then we try to get the tasks again. It still says error warning. Response entity task, get mapping, and we say to tasks. So it's probably because we haven't mapped it correctly. Because I don't think it's an error with the code itself, but the mapping that we did. So we have API. How will you map the URLs for the backend for example, for a to-do list app? Because I think that's where the issue, especially when it's RESTful. Get mapping, we say it's for all tasks, yes. Get mapping for one ID, we say tasks for ID. And for post mapping for creating, we say it's specifically for maps. Put mapping, tasks by ID. But the general one, okay. I put them all here as tasks. Probably that's why they're not working. Okay, how about if I remove this one here? And I said get mapping here with the task. And more post mapping also, let's say also with this connotation for the tasks. Because if you looked here, get task, get all tasks is tasks, create a new task also is task. So instead of having it up there. Now let's check. Warning, drop table if cascode. I'm not sure what's happening here. Incremented by 50, fx. Okay, let's ignore that part for now. Let's post one. Check. Yes, it's posted here. Let's get one. No default constructor is fine for the task. Okay, for some reason logbook doesn't is refusing to work properly, and it's causing me more issues than it's actually helping me. So I think I'll rather just not use it at all next time. Select none. Now I'm getting more warnings. Auto commit mode, level size, Hibernate, set client message warning, drop table to fix this task. Hibernate is giving me a lot of warnings for some reason. Okay, first post, insert it, get, another post, and let's check the get. Finally, I would just love to write code for the sake of the logic part, but everything else around it is very annoying. We actually stayed longer than usual today on that part, but we managed to get our request and we managed to make our own exceptions. Next time we'll probably try to do the DTO and the service implementation part. That was very tiring. I'll give that what I learned too deep. I just write, these are all things that I need to do, yes, but I need to make just one for tomorrow. We want to how about we make it like a checklist, service implementation DTO. I would love to get to know more about the custom error handling, but I think I'll leave it for now because the only thing that's stopping me from understanding it a bit more, where is my get? Select all changes. Let's just say commit only. What message should we say for this one? Get all tasks and creating a task. Contains problem, review the code analysis. 17 warnings, why? Everything is committed, but I'm not sure why it's shown. What the fuck is happening here? It's because of loan book. Pretty sure I removed everything here related to loan book, but yep, there is no loan book here, the loan book here. Okay, let's just delete this. The security, where is loan book? Let's just comment it and then refresh it. Maven sync project. So now I shouldn't be getting all of these errors. Yeah. Okay. Check on the repository here. Yes. Everything seems to be fine, but I'm not sure why it's appearing in this color. We will leave that part also. Forget about it. That was extremely exhausting. Now enough Spring Boot for today, and let's torture ourselves with something even more painful. I'll not do as much Angular as I thought I would do today, because yeah, Spring Boot just took this amount of energy out of me. But back to the Angular, we will start with the add component tag, because that's the first thing you actually see when you start your project. The interface is something I created from TypeScript. As for the component here, decorator, I think that's a design pattern that contains some configuration used by Angular, and HTML template that controls what renders in the DOM, a CSS selector that defines. Okay, so we have two things that go inside it. We have the selector and we have the template. What do we have here? The selector, and we have templates. Do we have templates? Yes, the template, it's the HTML file itself. HTML is the template, yes. Yeah, template URL is the HTML. And the selector, CSS selector that defines how the component is used in HTML. User profile. Oh, I'm not sure about the selector part. It's also optional accepts style, property, and any CSS. Spreading HTML into separate. I don't think I'll survive the documentation here, because there's just too much stuff to search. Angular tutorial. That's 7 years ago. That's 17 hours. And of course it's with TypeScript, and it was 2 years ago. Okay, we will check it.
In this complete Angular,
Even though I don't like the fact.
in this complete Angular course for beginners, you will first learn.
Okay, they teach introduction to TypeScript, setup, TypeScript, data types and function, built-in
Property
directives.
binding, you learn about event binding, and this is what we
Efficiently and fast. Now let's talk about what is Angular. Angular is one of the frameworks we have available today to implement or to know so far this.
HTML, JavaScript for TypeScript, CSS, get. Okay. Benefits of Angular.
Amazon, get the book. Now let's talk about benefits of Angular. Why
Okay, sure.
shouldn't you just build something from scratch with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript? First of all,
It's
Angular
very
and
annoying.
other frameworks allow you to have faster development, so you write less code and you get more output. Angular also has faster code generation. Because Angular has the Angular CLI, it allows you to just type some commands in your command prompt in your terminal, and then it generates a lot of code, which is super easy, and not a lot of other frameworks have the CLI for themselves. Angular is
Okay.
also unit test ready, so it doesn't matter what you're creating in Angular, whether it's a pipe, directive, service, or component, all of them have unit test files created with them, and you can just start coding in that. One of the things that I really like about Angular is that it is opinionated, which actually means that it is a community-wide established standard on how to code in Angular, which makes it super easy for developers to switch different teams and even different companies. It's very
I mean, it has been around for a while, if I'm not mistaken. And it's the most popular framework because of how stable it is, as
likely
far as
that
I
if
know.
you have coded in Angular for one application, when you go to another company or another team, you'll find similar code, which is not the case for other frameworks out there which are not opinionated. And Angular provides a lot of code reusability. Since you can create components, services, pipes, you can basically reuse them multiple times in your project. And when you want to use it
I mean, code reusability is also with React, but
in another
okay.
project, just copy the folder of the component service in the other one and you're good to go. Now let's talk about some pressing topics, Angular versus React and the myths about
Yep.
Angular. Let's address Angular versus React first. Angular is a framework, and when we talk about a framework is a set of practices and rules that a person has to follow while working on something, which means that it is
Yeah, that's the different. Angular is a framework, React is a library, and the framework that you use with React is Next.js. Because React doesn't have what is called routing system, so you have to use Next.js for that, but Angular has both.
composed of structures, opinions, and a lot of other things. Angular also has a built-in CLI, as I mentioned, so you
The
use
CLI.
the Angular CLI to generate code, to build it, to serve the Angular application, and whatnot. Angular also has a lot of tools and packages installed when you create a new Angular application, which is suitable for both small and medium scale application. For example, if you need to make HTTP calls from an Angular application, you don't need to install additional packages. If you want to use unit tests in your application, you don't need to install additional packages. And if you want to have something with forms, you don't need additional packages. So all of that is included when you create a new Angular application. And as I mentioned before, it is opinionated. Since it's a framework, you have better code style and consistency that can scale beyond teams and even companies sometimes.
Okay.
Now let's talk about React on the other side. And I'm not really bashing React here. It's a really good library to work
It's
with.
a library,
I have
yes.
been using React for about 6
So wait, technically you can use React inside
Yes,
Angular
but
then, if you
again,
inserted the
with
library.
Angular, React is a tiny library, and yes, it is a tiny library. You just start with React and you can start building components, but as soon as you want a real app that does something, is usable for the users, you need more packages. For example, if you want to make HTTP calls, usually people go for Axios or something else. If you want state management, you go with Redux or something of that sort. If you are working with forms, you need a particular library. If you want form validation, you need a library. So there are a lot of things that you need with a React sort of ecosystem or React application.
Yeah,
Unless you go
it's
with, for example,
it depends on other libraries
create
or
React app, which has some of the things installed with it. Then you also have no CLI within React if you need to create a
I'm still not sure about the CLI. I think once I start coding a bit more in Angular, I'll start to see it more
component, you
often.
basically do it yourself. And it also requires you to install additional packages, as I mentioned, even scale applications. Now,
Too many installations actually just to make a simple React project.
let's uncover some myths about Angular. The first one is Angular is hard to learn. That is not the case at all.
I don't think so. I mean, if you know JavaScript and TypeScript, it will not be as difficult.
Previously, when we had AngularJS, it was 1.x, and we migrated to Angular 2. That was the only difficult part in the whole Angular system,
Because yes, you're changing from JavaScript to TypeScript.
where things became hard to learn. But Angular is really easy to learn, and you are going to see that in this particular video. So wait a while. Angular will change significantly on every update. That's also a myth. So every 6 months, Angular releases a new major version, which does not change so much significantly that you need to forget about all your previous practices time and again. It is constantly evolving. It adds more features, removes a lot of bugs and whatnot. But essentially, it's very convenient from migrating from one version to another. And they also provide this update sort of application in which you can select from which version of Angular you want to migrate to other one, and you have all the steps to just follow that, and it doesn't even take more than like a week for huge applications, so to say. Another myth is Angular is really slow. That's not really the case. According to a recent benchmark which actually took care of Angular version 18, Angular performed really well among the other ones. For example, if I just show you how Angular is doing with the recent changes which allows zoneless applications in Angular, you can see that it performs quite similar to Vue.js or Preact. This is a really cool benchmark for you.
So yes, Angular is slower than React technically, or as far as I know. So if you're using a small app, it's better to go with React.
To even look at. So since you have the link for this particular slides, just try it out and see the benchmark for yourself. Another myth is Angular has huge bundle size. This was the case in earlier versions of Angular like Angular 2, Angular 4, when the components needed to be compiled on the browser just in time. We called this just in time, and that was because Angular could not create instructions back then that were directly running in the browser. Well, that has changed now. So now when you create an Angular application, the whole Angular compiler is not built, and thus the bundle size is not huge at all, and we are going to see that as well. So let's jump into the Angular core concepts. I'm going to highlight the things that are core concepts, but we are going to cover majority of them in this.
Let's check what are the core concepts here. Components, data binding, passive data from parents into child, event listeners, counter, style, HTTP calls. Okay.
This video. So first we have components, and then we have services, then we have directives, pipes, we have data binding, how to add event handlers like click, key up, then we also have HTTP module which is used to create HTTP calls, then we have forms module using which you work with forms, inputs, and other things as well. Then we have routing, that is how to create multiple pages in Angular application, which is a single page application. And then how to work with animations, which are direct native Angular animations, and then how to work with testing and building for production. Now we are going to start with creating an
Actually, creating is it's very simple compared to React, but you need to install Node.js first, so, and TypeScript I think also.
Angular application. The way we do that is using the Angular CLI. So to install the Angular CLI, you already should have Node.js installed. So go to the previous slides where I mentioned what tools we need. And once you have Node.js installed, you can run this command to install the latest version of Angular CLI. Once you have that, you can just run ng version, and it should show you which version of Angular you're running. For now, I'm going to go to my terminal and just run ng version, and you're going to see which version I have. You can
Interesting, because I actually do want to check. ng version. Yeah, okay, it was double dash. 19.13.
You can see that I'm running version 18.2.7. So I am on Angular 18 at the moment. Now let's talk about creating first application. To create an app, you say ng new and you give the name of your first application. And we can optionally run with dry run, which is an interesting flag. I'm going to show you. So if I go to my terminal and type this and say dry run, what this is going to do is this is going to run.
Okay, let's.
And the first thing that we are going to discuss is Angular components. What are Angular components and why should we care? Angular components basically comprise the whole application. So if you look at any Angular application or any web application, they're built on top of different building blocks. For example, header, you could have a date picker, all of
Okay.
those things that you see in the
I thought components would be even single ones like the cards in the website. I didn't think it as the header and the footer itself. But yes. But wait, the header does have the logo, and then are each one of them considered component, or does the entire thing is considered a component?
are actually components, and Angular components are no different. For example, in this app, we are going to look at the
Actually, let's check that. What is considered an Angular component in a web page? build the building blocks. An Angular consists of template, define HTML. No, that's not the meaning of my question. That's not what I meant. For example, is the nav bar considered a component, or is the logo or is the entire header a component? Both navbar and header could each be considered a separate component depending on how you structure the application. So it's not a fixed thing. Okay.
App component, we are going to create a header component and we are going to create a home component. And this is sort of the mock-up of how things should look like.
So we have the header component, and then we have
In
the
our
home
application-
component, and there should be also a footer.
Then the app component is already created when you create an Angular application. All we need to do is create the header component and the home component. But before even going there, I want to show you the app component, how it is right now. Every component in Angular has a TypeScript file, and that has a class. So this class is what tells Angular that this is a component, but not just the class. Above the class, you will always find this component decorator. This decorator basically enhances the information about this class and tells Angular about a lot of things related to this component. For example, what is the selector of this component? That is app root. This is how, when Angular looks at the index.html, it knows that inside the body, this tag which is being used is app.
Interesting. Let's check the file structure here. So that's the TS that we have, and it says selector is app root, and if we turn to the okay, I see. How also about we just delete everything here? I want it back to the default state. No, not sure why the app.component.tss. That's the spec.tss.
Actually, this component, and then it.
So that's the index.html that we have, and inside the body it will render the app root, and the app root is mentioned here in the component.tss inside the component. So the selector is selecting from the index.html. Okay.
It goes ahead and renders welcome to title instead of the app component, or inside it, so to say. What I mean is, if I go and inspect it here, you're going to see that in the elements tab, we do have the head, the body, and then inside that we have this app root. Now when Angular looks at this app root, it identifies via this component decorator class that, hey, this app root means this component, which means I should actually render the template which is right here, and thus it goes in.
So it has to run the template. The template, it's the HTML, which is the one that we are actually messing with. So that HTML is not for the website, but for the component itself. Okay.
Inside.
So again, selector HTML, template also HTML, but selector is index.html, and this one is component.html. Should I write it as a comment here? For index.html.
And renders h1 and router, as you can see. If I change anything inside here, it is
So it does change.
going to render it inside the app.
Not sure what the router outlet means. What is the router outlet in Angular? Is a directive that acts as a placeholder in the template where the route selected views or component will be rendered. Interesting. So the router inside the index.html. It's different from his structure for some reason. The router outlet is mentioned inside the component.
right here, and thus and here
Actually, let's get back a
the app
second.
component or what is the selector looks at the index HTML.
App.root. Okay.
It knows
Again, so index HTML has the app root. So after rendering this page, it will go to the app.root that's mentioned here in the component, and then it will render that template, and that template is the one that we do here. I'm not sure about the
that
router
inside
outlet
the
one.
body, this tag which is being used is actually this component, and then it
So we have selector standalone true imports router outlet. Okay, we don't have that one. And then we have the template. We have template URL. And okay, he has here the template instead of having it as a separate HTML file. So that's the difference between template and template URL. And inside that HTML, we also have the router outlet. So yes, it is here.
goes ahead and renders welcome to title instead of the app component or inside it, so to say. What I mean is, if I go and inspect it here, you're going to see that in the elements tab we do have the head, the body, and then inside that we have this app root. Now when Angular looks at this app root, it
Okay.
identifies via this component decorator class that hey, this app root means this component, which means I should actually render the template which is right here, and thus it goes inside and renders h1 and router. As you can see, if I change anything inside here, it is going to render it inside the app root component, easy peasy. Now one of the things that I would highly encourage you to do is to use the Angular DevTools extension, and this is how the extension looks like. You can just search Angular DevTools, and once
Okay, let's check for it. Angular DevTools extension.
you have that and install this, when you go to your elements tab, or when you go to your Chrome inspector, which you can do by right clicking and click inspect, you will see an Angular tab right here, and when you click this, you can actually see the components as well. So here you see we have the app root component, and inside that we are also using a router outlet component, but we're gonna talk about that later. In the
Okay,
app
sure.
root, you see this property called app title, or just the title, which says first ng app. If I change this to essence app, for example, hit enter, you can see that this renders right here. So that
So it's rendering the .html, which is this one, which is empty, so it will not do anything. And then the styling for that component is the CSS folder that is also empty. But now the thing is about the spec.ts. This one will always give me an error. I'm not sure if that's
one thing
something
about the
I added, or okay, how about we just delete that file entirely and start a new file. Not Angular, we have the CRUD, and then we have my app. So how about we delete this one, then let's copy this directory so that we can cd to it, and close here, try again, because I already have the app open. That's probably why. Actually, let's let it finish deleting first. Yeah. Now we open VS Code. Okay, let's check the terminal. cd this ng install, I think it was called. We are at minute 18. Okay. Benefits, creating Angular application.
To see which version I have Angular you're running. For now,
ng new, the new name. Okay, not install. ng new. How about we check the version first to check if it even is there. ng new, and we call it my-app. And yes, we don't want to use SAS for now. Yes, sure, yes, let it install. Now back to minute 18.
and inside that we are also using
Check on that part. This one is already installed.
a router
Okay, it will take a while.
outlet component, but we're gonna talk about that later. In the app root, you see this property called app title, or just the title, which says first ng app. If I change this to Essence app, for example, hit enter, you can see that this renders right here. So that's one thing about the component part, that is the selector, the app root. What else do we have in our component? We have standalone true. You can ignore this for now because it doesn't matter at the moment. This is also going to be removed going forward. What I want
Okay.
you to focus on is the template right here. The template here essentially is what gets rendered in the view. For example, I could go here and here I can press or type a p tag, for example, and here I could say something like hello world, and if I save this, go to my browser, I don't even have to reload my app. Angular dev server automatically reloads it. And now you see we also have this p tag right here in our elements, which means that whatever I render here or type here, it's going to be
Okay, so that's why they use the HTML URL, and they can have HTML files for specific component. So you can have the HTML, for example, for a table, and that's how you create component, and then you piece them together inside the main app component. Okay.
rendered in my application. Now apart from this template, you also see this styles right here. But what you can do here is that you can add backticks here and you can actually write styles here. For example,
Yeah, you can either write the style or actually use the, what was it called again? Let me take my app and put it here. Or how about we just open the project? Open folder, desktop project, and then I have my app. So we have the index.html with the app root, then inside the app component.ts, we have the router outlet, and then we have this thing here. So this is a boilerplate code, but that's a CSS file. Why does it seem like a CSS file? Okay, the CSS is written in the same place as the HTML. Okay, that's a bit weird. Now, how do you open the, how do you run the app again? I forgot. Let's have a separate files actually. The DS and the HTML one. I think it was ng run. Minute 19 exactly.
production. Now want SSR in this one, but it will say dry run, which is an interesting flag. I'm gonna show you. So if I go to my and here don't want first have a, you see that the so just to have a component this, I have an issue here. So let's show me inline code now it's gonna ask me create the things I want to see is when we create now the app, we have opened that in VS Code. Alright, now when we look at our application, you're going to see that
I have live code on.
package.json, a couple of things here,
Yep.
but I just want to go through the main file. So package.json is the main file for you to run any scripts. If you want to serve our development server of Angular application, we just need to run npm start from our terminal. When we want to build this for production, we are going to run npm run build, and when we want to run the unit test, we can run npm test. So if I open my terminal, I can go to view, terminal, and if I click this, I should be able to just open this. And if I run npm start, this is going to serve my application on localhost 4200. And now if
Okay, it's npm start. npm start. Would you like to? Sure. Let's take this one, and then we have it on. Okay, he made it an inline. That's probably why. And we didn't. It's too much going up with the setup. These are all styles. Delete all of them, yes. We should have here the server, servlet. Okay. I need to check out it's written here.
If I go to my app, you can immediately see we have my browser. I don't even have to reload my app. Angular dev server automatically reloads it. And now use browser, for example, and here I could say here the temp component. So that's one thing about the app. Just for now selected the app root. What else do we?
Okay, we have there. It's called router outlet, which is the one that's imported here.
We have in our component. We have standalone truth. You can ignore this for now because it doesn't matter at the moment. This is also going to be removed going forward. What I want you to focus on is the template right here. The template here essentially is what gets rendered in the view. For example, I could go here and here I can press or type a p tag, for example, and here I could say something like hello world. And if I save this,
okay, we can try this one. H1 welcome to the title, and the title is the title of the app. So interesting, we are getting an error. I haven't started anything yet.
a p tag, for example, and
Angular will be annoying to deal with, I know that for sure. How about we don't even welcome to, that's it. Okay, sure.
and here I could say something like hello world. And if I save this, go to my browser, I don't even have to reload my app. Angular dev server automatically reloads it. And now you see we also have this p tag right.
Yeah, and actually let's check for the developer app, inspect Angular. Okay.
Here in our elements, which means that whatever I also have this p tag right here.
Yeah, we do have a title. I'm not sure where we're getting
our
from it.
elements, which means that whatever I render here or type here, it's going to be rendered in my application. Now apart from this template, you also see this styles right here. But what you can do here is that you can add backticks here and you can actually write styles here. For example, here I could say something like p tag is gonna have a background color of red, for example. If I do this and save this, you can see that automatically my p tag now has the background color applied. One of the things that I really want to enforce here is, if you look at the styles here, you're gonna see something interesting. You not only see the P, but you also see this bracket and something interesting going
NG
on.
content.
And when you see the code, it's just P here. So what's really happening here? Angular makes sure that the styles you write within a component stays within the component. For example, if my global HTML after my app component had a P tag, and this was something like this is outside of app component, if I just do this P tag will not have the styles applied here, which is one of the
Yeah, so you don't have to specifically use ID to mention which p tag you are referring when you are styling. Okay,
most important things for a web developer to not leak styles. If I go to my app, you can see that this P is not affected. And the way Angular deals about this is that whenever you have a component and a style within the component, Angular first adds a particular attribute to that particular component, and then all the styles also have this attribute as well. For example, if I click P, you will find this exactly has the same attribute style. This is how it is essentially containing, or not exactly the same one, the ng content one. So this is how it's actually containing the styles within the
so it goes and just adds the ng content to it, and that's how it distinguishes
component, not leaking
manually.
outside. So
Okay.
I can quickly just say p tag or h1 tag, but I won't have to care about if the styles are going to be leaked out. Now we're going to continue with our logic of header and home component. What I want to do now is to create both of these components so I can render it just like this. So for this, you can just say ng generate component, like this whole term within the full form, or you can just say nggc and you can give the name of the component. When you do this, it creates it inside the source app folder. Let me show you. If I go to my terminal and open a new one, I'm gonna let my server keep running, and then I'll open a new terminal. And in here, I want to run the command nggc and header. I want to run this with dry run so I can show you what happens when I run this. You can see that this generates a component inside the source app, and then it creates a folder for the header component, and then creates the files inside those. Now I don't really want that. I want the header component to be inside a components folder, and the way you do that is that you can say ngg component or ng generate component, and then you give the path component / header, so then it generates inside the source app components, and then the header folder, and then the
Can you just not right click, I think? Okay, create component, was it? And generate component in component header. Component and call it header. Undefined ngGC, sorry, ng generate components dash header / header, not header. So instead of manually creating the CSS, HTML, and the specs, which I'm not till now, I'm not sure what the spec folder is for, and the TS one, you can just create it. So this one is mainly for the main home page. That is the source of everything, not for creating components. Okay, sure. So you have the so that's the main thing, component.html. No, I think that was the old one. Yes, it's component.html. And then you have this one also. How about the HTML one? There is no server outlet here. How about we go here to the TSS? I want to change because it's very disorienting. How about we go here to the TSS component, the TSS, and here have the HTML. Yes, perfect. But we don't have any import, and the server outlet is not imported here. we will check on the server outlet later. And here is the URL, the local one, and then there's the style, and then just p.
The header component. So this is what I'm gonna do now. I'm gonna copy this now, and then I'm gonna run this with the dry run flag. And here you can see now it generates inside source app components, then header, and then the header files. One of the things that you'll notice is that now none of my files have the SCSS file and also the HTML file. I don't really want that, so I'm gonna change something in my Angular JSON. In here you can see that we have this projects first ng template, and inside schematics you can see in the Angular component I have inline template true, inline style true. I'm gonna actually remove these so we have
Yeah, because why the heck would you like inline ER code?
separate files going forward. So I'm gonna save this now, and I'm going to run the command again. Now you can see that it generates the HTML file as well, and it also generates the SCSS file. Now I'm gonna run this without the dry run, and there we go. Now we have our component created. If I scroll up, look at here, we have the components folder, and inside we have the HTML and CSS files containing those things. And in the TypeScript file, now you're gonna see something different. Here we have the selector called app header, but now instead of the template, unlike here we had template, now here we have template URL.
Okay, actually, good notice. What about the selector here? It's called app header. Here it's called app root, but if you want to go to the HTML here, we have app root. Where is the app header? It's not mentioned here, but I think we can just manually add it, but I thought it will be added automatically here, but never mind.
And it points to where is the HTML file for this header component compared to the TypeScript file. And it's right here, so this is pointing to the right file. Similarly, it's pointing for the SCSS file. And now that we have the header component, let's also generate the component for home as well. Since home is going to be a page, I'm not gonna actually create a
Okay, so you have the header for every header that exists in every page, and then you have the content will change. So you have the home and about. Okay, I see.
component in the components folder. I'm going to create this outside. So let's do it like this. I'm gonna just say ngGC and home, so I can create it outside of the components folder. And now we have a home component right here as well.
Okay, next time ng create generate component, and we call it home, and that will create the home page. So now we have inside the app we will have the component, and then we have the header, and then we have the home page. But why did he make it separate? I mean, the home is a page and it's not a component, so probably that's
Now
why.
what I want to do is to be able to render both the header and the component and the home component right here inside my app component. So ideally my app root should show app header and app home. For this I'm going to do two things. One, in my app component where I have to render both of them, I have to first import these components. So here I'm gonna go and add home component just like this, and I'm gonna hit enter, and it's automatically going to import this. And then I'm also gonna say header component just like this. Now that I
Let's see. So the app component, which is the main one, not just using the. So he didn't add it to the main index.html, but he added to the component itself. And we have header component, and it's called header component, and we have also home component. The header here was capital. Nope. Home component, and it just knows. Okay, because header and home are very generic types. Okay, there is more to it. Never mind.
have imported those, I can remove all of these from here, and then I can say something like app, and you can see Angular language search.
Okay. Where is the HTML part of this instead of the server outlet, which I'm not sure about? How about we have the header or app header? Not app header. We have the app home.
server, that is the extension for VS Code is already helping me. So I can say app header just like this, and I can say app home just like this. Now let's save this, and if
Okay, it's a self-closing bracket or tag, sorry. Okay, my mouse is also lagging. Now let's check the website. Header works, home works. So actually that's really nice. So they already have the packages set for having the header and the home page. Okay.
if I go here, you can see it says header works, home works, and as I said, now the app root has the app header.
Let's see here. Yes, we have the server outlet, we have the app header and the app home. Still not sure what the server outlet is, but we'll check that out
and
later.
then the app home.
So you have the app component is the main page, and then you add everything to it. Okay.
Easy peasy. I'm gonna also go and remove this paragraph from the index.html. We don't really need that. And this looks super nice. Go and remove
Index.html. This is outside. Okay. Yeah.
this paragraph from the index.html. We don't really need that. And this looks super nice now. Now what I want to do is to style this a bit better. So first I'm gonna go to my style CSS and add some styles. I'm gonna say that we have the HTML, we have the body right here, and then we are going to simply say margin 0, padding 0. We are also going to say asterisk outline none, and now we can quickly go ahead and style the header and the home. So first I'm gonna go inside the header component.
Yes, that's the first thing. What does comma mean inside of the asterisk? It means everything, if I remember correctly. What does this mean in CSS HTML, comma, body? I think it's mentioning, but you can write just the body itself and that's it. Apply style to both HTML and the body. Okay, so it's an and, not or. Select the HTML tag, which is basically the entire page. But if you selected the HTML tag, don't you by default also select the entire page? Yes, well, when you select the HTML tag in CSS, you are selecting the entire page by definition, because the HTML element is root element that contains all the other elements on the other page, including the body. However, the reason many developers choose to explicitly select both HTML and body together is to apply certain style to both in a predictable, consistent way. While HTML element contains the entire page, some style like height, margin, padding may not apply the same way to both HTML and body due to browser default. Let me explain in more details. Okay. Browser default style. Default browser have slightly different default styles for the HTML and the body elements. For example, many browsers apply default margin to the body element but not to the HTML. By selecting both, you ensure that these okay, where's my body? So let me get this straight. So we have here the HTML tag, and then we have here the body tag, and it says here in some browser there is a margin for the body. Okay, here is a margin, check. Here is a margin, no. Okay, by selecting both, you ensure that these default margins are controlled consistently. But that's my question. If you made, for example, the margin and you set it to true, inside the, actually check that. If you pick the HTML tag and you set that the margin equals to true, doesn't it by default make also the body true? I'm not sure. For the first example that you mentioned, the HTML, the default browser, it's called, the default styles, if we have the HTML tag with no margin and we decided wait, it doesn't have a margin, and we decided to make the margin true, doesn't that make the, what was it called, the body margin also equals true? The margin behaves when applied to HTML tag versus the body tag. Default margin behavior. Browser typically apply default margin to the body element but not to the HTML. This means when you explicitly set a margin of the HTML, it does not automatically apply that to the margin body. For example, margin 20, margin 0. Element will have 20 and the body that's expected result. HTML doesn't elements margins does not automatically affect the body. This is because the body is a child of the HTML element, but they are treated as separate entities in terms of their styling by the browser. Because I think also here he used the margin and padding, for example. So I get why. So it's not like inheritance in OOP where the child inherit the father. So what will happen if I made the margin for only the body? Does not work. Instead, quite later, CSS does not inherit automatic elements like with OPP. So actually, let's try it here ourselves. I did the global styling. Yes, that's the style CSS of both HTML and the body. Let's check how will that look like. Where is the CSS? I want the CSS styling here. That's the global style. So let's say we want the body to have a margin of 0 and a padding of also 0. How would that look like? Okay, let me comment that. So they're pushed that way. How about if I have it to the HTML instead of the body? How will that look like? HTML. actually before that, I forgot exactly which one was margin and which one was padding. Padding is, here's the text and inside, so yes, it will not be shown here necessarily, and the margin is between the borders here. Okay, no, I need a proper explanation for that.
Certainly a fast.
CSS margin and padding. The border is very simple. Border is just the lines. The issue is with the margin and the padding.
Hey, how's it going, people?
Because you have the HTML has a margin and a padding, and then you have the elements inside of has also a
Today I'm
margin
going
and
to
padding.
explain margins in CSS. Margins are the space around an element. I'll create an H1 element, type in your name, or something that's kind of short, and we'll need a paragraph. I'll generate some text by typing lorem, then hitting tab. Let me just zoom in a little bit. To give you a diagram of margins, I'm going to right-click our H1 element and go to Inspect. At the bottom of my Elements window, we have this diagram. It kind of resembles an onion because it has layers. We have the element itself and its dimensions, padding, for
Okay, that's how you use it, because that's what I was searching for. So let's comment that. So just delete everything. Let's just say for the HTML element. So the padding, there is no padding. Okay, this is the text itself. There is no padding. There is no border. There is nothing. Okay, how about the body? There's the body. There is no padding. There is no border, but there is a margin. For example, in Brave, what are the default settings for padding and margin for both the HTML tag and the body? About user agent style, this default style is set to the browser client when no other CSS is specified. HTML, they by default have no margin and no padding. That's a cap. They do have a padding, but it doesn't show for some reason. Because yes, there is a space here. And if we change the code here to how about we comment it? Okay. So how about if we made it the body? Okay, so yes, HTML doesn't have a margin or a padding. We confirm that. But the body does have margin, not padding though. Okay, we can check that. Where is the app? It says here that it has a margin. Margin is the one that's outside, padding is the one inside. So yes, it does have a margin. But how do I show that? Header, here's the body. Yes, it does have a margin. How about we add a padding to it? Forget about the margin for now, since it already have, I think, 8 pixel worth of margin. We say padding, for example, 50. Let's reload here. Padding, it says here 50, but it doesn't want to apply it. How about we apply it in the page itself? Control Z. Okay, because I have already one commented here. So the body has display block and margin 8 pixel. Okay, have it back, and we say 10 this time. I can't see the padding. padding is 10 is also not, seems to be causing an error.
Border, then margins. Padding is between the element itself. Margins are the area outside of any borders. Today we'll be working with margins, the area outside of any elements.
Margins are okay.
In today's video, I'm going to be covering every 1 and 2 and background colors of red and blue. These boxes are represented in the CSS as box 1 and box 2. I've also
okay, I'll get to another rabbit hole if I continue, but for some reason I can't add padding, but I understand why we have the body and HTML, just to make it sure in every browser. But don't we have the header also? But I mean, we don't have a header, so anyway.
And here we can quickly go ahead and
I think it's auto saved, yes, so it should be added here.
style the header and the home. So first I'm gonna go inside the header
all outline, none outline. I think that was for the border. What is outline? None. Outline is a property value that removes outline from an element. What is an outline? Outline is a line that is drawn outside an element border, often used by the browser to indicate, for example, okay, how about we changed the outline to something actually. Say outline, say asterisk, outline, I think the outline is mentioned inside. Yeah, the outline is a property. My bad. Outline is mentioned in numbers, so how about 5 pixels? How about 5%? Now let's check the app. Padding is the same. Borders we don't have. The outline doesn't seem to be working. Sure. I mean, in that global style you just make everything 0, but I'm not sure what are we making 0 but, by the outline. Okay, let me check CSS outline, or we can actually go to the school here. Outline. Color, borders. I think with borders we do have the outline. Okay, outline here. An outline is a line drawn outside the element borders. So that's outside the border. Okay, what's the difference? What's the difference between a border and outline? Both border and outline using CSS correct. A border is part of the box model of an element, meaning it affects the layout and size of the element. It is drawn inside the element margin and outside the padding. So the box model is the 3 things here. So it is part of them. So if you want to have the border changed, you will be also pushing away the margin or the padding. But compared to the outline, you will not. So if you add a border to an element, it will increase the total size of the element because it is included in the box model. Yes, that's what I thought. Outline is drawn outside the element's box model and does not affect the element's size or layout. It does not affect the size of the element, so it won't change the dimension of the element. Okay, I see.
And here we have a header works. So here we are going to first create a nav, or instead of.
Okay, so now we are moving
And
faster.
now we can quickly go ahead and style the header and the home. So first I'm gonna go inside the header component.
So yes, we do get to the header component here, and let's open the HTML part here. The header component, instead of saying the header works, we actually create the header navigation, I think.
And here we have a header works. So here we are going to first create a nav, or instead.
Wait, what? The header is different from the nav. The header is something else. Yes, it's called the nav. Okay, I think I will stop it here. Already did more than expected today, but we found a good tutorial at least. So in Angular here, before Angular we say we have some issues with HTML and CSS because it's been a while since I did anything to them. HTML and CSS, and we make a checkbox. Yes, referred everything back to normal here. So what do we have here? Border, not border, it was margin versus padding. We understood the difference, and then we had okay, it says disconnected, but it actually is connected again. Weird. Okay, but it seems to be doing fine, so I'm not sure. We change this to points. That's the HTML tag versus the body tag. As for the margin and padding, okay, it did it automatically. Margin is what's outside or inside. I get it mixed. Padding is inside, margin is outside. Padding is the inside and margin is the outside. And my mouse is lagging again. I want the boxes again. So that's what we learned. That's related to HTML and CSS, not the components and the exports and all the other stuff. What else did we just search? The outline, yes, okay, that's what I was missing. Outline versus borders. Outline is, okay, let's start with the borders actually. Border is part of the box module, so it affects the element's side. As for, what was it again? As for outline is not part of the module and doesn't affect the size. What did I write inside here? So that for the HTML and CSS part. Actually be creating a new part here. and revert it back to normal. So what did we understand in Angular so far? You have the main app component. Actually, wait, I will need to recheck on that part tomorrow because it feels very vague. First, I will need to revise everything that I did up to that part, especially about the structure of the component, the main component app, and then how to actually call it. So yes, that's what we should be doing tomorrow. So we have the tomorrow part. What we will do, revise everything. My hand is refusing to work. Everything we did so far. But that's about it. So we finished that part for today with the Angular and with the Spring Boot also. But the Spring Boot has, oof, there is more to it than meets the eye. Not just the creation and deletion and all that stuff, but everything around it is the issue. Because creating, I think, will not be the issue. Or at least it was at the beginning, at least. Now we finish with Angular and all the stuff, so we actually did over the time that we usually do, especially for the YouTube part. So that will be it for the YouTube documentation of the project. More or less about my journey. I wouldn't say the project itself, but sure. So goodbye, YouTube. Yeah, 244. That's too much. And now